All right, let's go. All right, tell us about the book.
Yes, The Don Cherry Story by Cindy Cherry is available Amazon, Indigo, and coming to chapters soon in stores for the popular hockey stores is where they're going to put the book. Father's Day today, so this is the book for fathers, the hockey, the life, everything. It's a great book for fathers to read, so it's definitely one to pick up for your father. But I also want to because speaking of fathers and everything, and your dad, she talks about how the stories of you, and especially with summer coming up, your summer jobs, how you went from a cushy painting job to working on the railroads, basically.
I remember that. I remember sleeping in the back, and it was 12 o'clock, and Dad said, Donald, go to work today? And Mother said, no. He says, why? Well, they said it might rain.
Because you were painting houses, right?
Yeah, we were painting houses. I was falling into the trap.
Taking the day off, enjoying one of the weekends.
So then your dad said, no, that's not going to happen.
No, that's not going to happen. I got another job for you.
So they got you a job working on you were a section gang worker on the railroad.
I was so dizzy coming in, I was seeing spots.
You're so tired, Abe.
I was so tired.
But you said it got you in shape for training camp.
Oh boy, I was in terrific shape for hockey. I'll tell you that.
Well, I remember Cindy saying that your dad didn't tell your mom what you were doing.
Yeah.
Your mom was at a light, and your uncle said, saw the guys working on the section gang, and then they said, well, that's what Don's doing. And your mom said, what? And that was it. So you were going for training. You had to leave, but you're going to training camp.
Yeah,
you're going to Barrie anyway.
I quit 2 weeks early.
You were the youngest guy on the section gang?
Oh, geez, I was. Everybody else was about 35 years old, and they're just as tough as nails. Okay,
Dad. So Edmonton Panthers, Game 4 was fantastic. Game 5, not so much.
Boy, that was something to come back from a 3-0
deficit. Yeah.
Boy, that was really something.
Yeah, but next game.
Yeah, next game was nothing.
Why does it seem like that? Like a team, like you saw that with the Leafs this year. That they win on the road
2-0.
2-0. They're going, and then they come home and just flat.
I don't know what it is.
In Game 3 with Edmonton, they're getting hammered. What was it, 6-1 or something like that?
Yeah.
And they started to fight in the third period.
Yeah.
Craig Simpson was going, how awful it was and everything. But I think if you don't have that thing that you're pissed off and you're going to fight when you're down 6-1, that's the thing that gets you when you're down 3-0 that you can come back.
Yeah.
Because it made you think even last night that maybe they could do it again. Maybe
when McDavid got that goal and cut it to 2, you're thinking, well,
here we go.
No, but the little rat came through. Okay, Dad. So let's hope Edmonton wins on Tuesday, but let's say they don't. Who gets the Conn Smythe?
Yeah, I don't know. This would be the toughest one of them all.
Yeah, because I think it comes down to 3.
Yeah.
Bobrovsky.
Yep.
Bennett, because he's leading the NHL in goals in playoffs, and Marchand.
You got to pick one of those guys.
Yeah, I would say Marchand.
Me too.
Yeah,
because what you don't like. What I said. What about Bennett? What did you say?
No, I don't like, because I feel like if you give him the Conn Smythe, it says you're okay with the way he plays. Because I feel like he's a dirty player going after goalies.
Right.
Well, he got the goal.
He produces.
Yeah. But that was funny because I remember on Hockey Night in Canada last night, they had Chris Pronger, and I think Elliot Freeman says, what would you do with a guy like Bennett? Pronger just looked at the camera. And I said, remember when they did something to their goalie in Anaheim, and Pronger and Niedermeyer?
Yeah, they got the guy in the corner, and they ran his...
Yeah, they ran his head right to the sanction.
Yeah. He never got bothered again.
No, that's right. They carried him off. You know, you and I like Connor McDavid. You know, watched him when he was 13, the whole thing. But boy, he's having a tough finals.
Yeah, well, he got the one goal. I thought maybe they were going to make a comeback, but Marchand
Killed him again.
He pushed it ahead and jumped over the guy.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. What an unbelievable goal.
Yeah,
You know what I heard? And this is from a podcast with guys in Boston. So I take it with some seriousness. That the GM for Boston, Sweeney, and the agent for Marchand were close to signing an extension, but there were like two lines in the sand. Okay. And Marchand says, I want to be a Bruin for life. And he called up Sweeney and said, let's you and I meet and we'll figure it out this afternoon.
Yeah.
And Sweeney said no, and then traded him 2 days later.
And he wasn't serious about signing him.
Yeah, obviously. Like he might win the Conn Smythe. Where's he gonna go? Because he's a free agent.
Yeah, it's true. Where's his next spot? Maybe the couple follow him.
Maybe he'll go back to Boston.
Maybe they did meet. They said
Maybe they said, well, listen, you sign him for this year. We'll sign him next year.
Right. We'll come back next year.
There you go.
Before we get going down to the next question, we'll get some questions from the audience. It was 51 years ago today you signed with the Boston Bruins.
But I signed on Father's Day.
You remember what you said at the press conference?
No.
They said, Don, are you ready to coach? Because you only coached 2 years, 2.5 years, right, in the American League. They said, are you ready for the Boston Bruins? And you said, the question's not if I'm ready for the Bruins or the Bruins ready for me.
I don't remember saying that.
Yeah, you did. Again, Harry kind of looked at you and went, But you kind of hesitated at the start, right?
I didn't. I turned the Boston Bruins down. Imagine me turning the Boston Bruins down. And
But mom kind of talked you into it.
I could have run for mayor in Rochester.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, we were pretty comfortable in Rochester and had a nice house, and yeah, you were so popular in Rochester. But you said no, and then mom talked you into it.
Rose talked me into it.
And then I said, "Geez, does that mean I get to meet Bobby Orr?"
And I said, yeah, and so do I.
Hard to believe.
51 years ago.
Okay, now let's take some questions from the audience.
All right, from Suspended 5 Game. Hey, Graves, who was the best player you saw playing in the minors, and would he make the NHL today?
Best player I saw playing was Frank Mathers, and I remember, holy Dinah, this guy can't make the National Hockey League. And Skippy Teal and I said, we don't want to get in a fight with this guy, and he could really throw him too, and he could play hockey.
He was a player coach, right?
Yeah, he was a player coach.
How did that work?
Oh well, you just
Imagine there was like no guy, so there's nobody behind the bench.
Nobody behind the bench.
Wow.
And the player coach.
Well, I remember reading something that the Bruins, I think it was the Bruins, were mad at him because he wanted to go to school to be a dentist.
I remember Conn Smythe. He wanted to go to the dentist at the school, and he said, "We'll send him to the minors." And you could do that then. You could.
There's no union back then.
No,
right?
no union, no nothing. Just,
how much you think he'd be making today?
Oh, it'd be $8 million.
Okay, Peeps Mem Cup 79. Hey, Grapes, I a huge Pete's fan and have heard great stories of Stan Jonathans. Was he really as tough as they say?
And he was as tough as they say, and believe it or not, first couple of games he never fought, and the very first one you said he had a fight with who?
Moose DuPont.
Moose DuPont and him used to go at it all the time.
Yeah, they did have some. I remember Stan. That was Stan's first fight, right in front of the bench. And then during the playoffs, Stan popped him in the eye one time and really corked him in the eye.
Yeah, and
yeah. Do you remember meeting his dad? There wasn't a lot of videotape back then because remember there wasn't videotape, no. But somebody had cut down all of Stan's fights. And you walked into your office, and Stan was there with his dad, and was watching the fights, his fights. And so he introduced him, and you went, "Oh, hello, Mr. Jonathan. How are you? You know, you go, I really like your son Stan. He reminds me of my dog."
A dog blue.
And he kind of looked at you, right?
Kind of looked at me. He reminded me of my dog Blue.
I remember 2 fights with Stan. One was, and you really can't see it, you can't find it on the internet, is he fought Dave Schultz.
Oh, yeah.
That was a good one.
That was a good one.
And then there was a time when Clayton Pahal got called up in Detroit, and Clayton Pahal was about the same size as Stan.
And he had a helmet on.
And he had a helmet on.
And he looked just like him. And I remember they called up a guy named Kingsley.
Kingsley, I think, yeah.
And
So he thought, well, I'm going to take on Stan.
Oh, yeah.
So he grabbed Clayton Pahal thinking it was Stan.
And
really gave it to him, eh?
really gave it to him pretty good. And so the second time I put out Stan against him, Stan beat the heck out of him. And holy Dinah, how the hell did that guy improve in one period?
Yeah, that was something. But yeah, and Stan got everybody. You know, he was a fighter, but his rookie year, he had the best shooting percentage in the NHL.
Damn.
Yeah.
Biggs 267. Hey, Dom. I coach a 13-year-old AAA boys. What's your favorite drill in practice?
My favorite drill in practice was the guys in the corner, half in each corner, and they'd pass the puck to me, and I'd pass the puck to them, and they'd shoot in the corner, and they'd have to shoot from the side.
You and I, well, the one thing that we say watching the practices today, 2 things. First of all, they don't scrimmage enough.
No.
So you like the drills, but you got to scrimmage.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think at 13-year-old, and if you're AAA, you got to start learning how to think the game.
Absolutely.
And I think you do that by doing by scrimmaging. And then the one thing that too is that how much ice time is like, it's $200 an hour for the ice. Yeah. And you see the coaches by the board doing the drills, and then ka-ching, 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 yeah. You know what I mean? So just, the funny thing is, you were saying Pat Burns, 3-time coach of the year, he had the same practice every day.
Every day,
really?
like a day of a game.
Just over, and so the players said they knew exactly what they were going to do, right?
And they knew exactly what was going on.
Boards and Blades. Hey, Dom. They announced Anze Kopitar winning the Lady Byng. I love to hear the story of Jean Rattel of the Boston Bruins winning the Lady Byng.
I remember. And he would come in and close the door.
Yeah, but you remember you were going in, I don't want any Lady Byng wingers on my team.
And he closed the door very quietly after and he says, I'd like to apologize, Don, for winning the Lady Byng. Anyhow.
Tell the story. I like the story. There was a face-off at just inside the Bruins blue.
Oh, yeah. I said, no. I hold it time. I call him over and I said, John, now listen. Don't pull a puck back in our end. Go with that guy. The guy is a left-hander. He's going to go with you, and he says, yes, Don, I have that figured out. And the players just kill themselves laughing. Just kill themselves laughing.
Okay, Dad, we're going to wrap things up here. Keep this one a little short. So Tuesday, Del, is there going to be a Game 7?
Oh, yeah. Game 7, here we come.
I'm thinking there's going to be Game 7. Dad, what do you think?
I think that Edmonton's going to win, and there will be a Game 7. It'll be a tough game.